urged one of his fellow soldiers to be released. So that in and of itself is enough to be recognized as to him to be recognized as a wonderful person. And it's a tragedy that we have a president who cannot recognize that, and that tells you a lot about him too.
It's sad, people ask me a lot of times in my walks wherever, why do you talk about the drugs and stuff like that you did? Well, I tell them it's not who I am. It's just what I did. It's something I went to, and it further extends my relationship with God, simply because if he could bring me through that, most people, well, I won't say most, I'll say many people that have gone down that path, they don't come back. So after getting off of drugs and, being diagnosed with cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and getting over it twice, there is no doubt in my mind that God is there and here in my life, in the here and now. So I share about it and I talk about it simply because I am not the only one. There's nothing to be ashamed about. It's part of the, how would you say, maybe the character development or the character building in me as an individual to not only have gone through it, but to share people and to draw other people to him, to let them know there's nothing you cannot do. If I've done this, if I've come from where I've come from, what can you not do?
Absolutely. And we find people who, maybe not have been on drugs or have done some other things like that. But even the little things, there are times when a person says, now why did I do that? It means that they find something wrong with what they have done, and they're willing to, accept that and to move on. And one of the art of saying please and thank you and I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
It just seems that we've lost it.
It's passé.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I hope that all of us, in terms of admitting who we are and what we may have done wrong, and how we've corrected it, can have that talk with our young people who also may be in trouble but have no one to get them back on the right path. I think we can all do that to help our young people.
I think it's imperative. I really do. And, I joke around, but sometimes I feel kind of serious. I say that I'm a millennial trapped in a boomer's body. And the reason I say that is because I understand their angst. I understand that, they want to do things a certain way. And I think to a certain degree they should. However, what we grew up doing and learning is the foundation. And if they can just embrace a bit of it with the mindset they have now, with technology and all that, they will be catapulted into a stratosphere that they would not believe. And it will be for the betterment of the millennials, the Gen Xers, the Gen Yers. But in some cases, the bottom line is you got to get banged up before you can really appreciate what you have.
Absolutely, but I still think that kindness works a whole lot better than
goodness, yes.
hatred and all of the negative things we're seeing today. And if each one of us who has been through something would sit down with just one person, it doesn't even have to be a young person.
Right.
Because older people need that encouragement to change their ways of doing things. I know Dick Gregory, when he was with us, would always tell us about hatred. Hatred is not good for your health.
That's right.
Fear, not good for your health. Jealousy, not good for your health. So when you do these things, you're actually hurting yourself, not the person you're hating or that of whom you're jealous or what have you. So we have to get rid of all of that hatred, jealousy, fear, and go ahead. Sometimes we have to take risks that we didn't even know we could take. But when we take them and we succeed, we learn something, and we can then go on and be powerful in terms of helping someone else become who they want to be. So I want to move now to your books. You're a prolific writer. Let's talk about some of your books.
Well, I'm truly grateful. In fact, that's my daily comment when someone asks me, "How are you doing? What's going on, man?" I say, I'm grateful, and I'm grateful to have been able to write those books because I never wanted to write. I wanted to be this international singing sensation all over the world, performing and people wanting to hear me sing and all that. And when it came to write a book, my mentor, my coach, and my friend, Dr. Willie Jolly, says, Charles, as a speaker, if you want credibility, you've got to write a book. You need to have a book. So I wrote my first book, which I don't talk about, called Poetic Expressions. And Poetic Expressions was a great introduction to the literary world. So I've written now in 4 different genres: poetry, a memoir, a self-help or a how-to, as well as a resource book. And each of those genres has taught me really how to reach people in different ways. Courage Facing Mortality turned out to be an Amazon bestseller. My best selling book in general is Radiate the Brain and Change the Game. And now we're introducing a new book to the fold, which is just coming out. In fact, I'm debuting it this weekend at my conference. I got a conference at Dave and Buster's. It's called After the Diagnosis: From Crack to Cancer to Cured. So I'm grateful for all these opportunities.
Well, it's interesting that you knew Dr. Willie Jolly. I knew him when he was just Willie, and people might say who, and I consider him a good friend. He's certainly influenced my life. There's some very positive things that he has said and that he has done that have influenced my life, and I like that one about a setback
is a setup for a comeback.
All right, I love that,
yes,
and
indeed.
I think everybody needs to internalize that and know that trouble don't last always.
That's right.
Okay.
He did forwards for 2 of my books. This book here that's coming out, After the Diagnosis, he did the forward for that, as well as my very first book called Poetic Expressions.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to talk about some more of your books, and I'm glad you can stay with us, but I want to bring in another young woman who is a poet, and feel free to participate in that conversation. We're going to go to her right now. Our next guest is Miss Kimberly Green. Kimberly is an author and an entrepreneur, and she's from my home state of Louisiana. Kimberly, good morning. Hello. Okay, well, look, we're going to come back to her.
Okay.
Nothing stops the show, okay?
All right.
So until she's there now. Kimberly.
Good morning, Dr. Faye.
How are you this morning?
I'm doing exceptional, and yourself?
I'm blessed and highly favored, I should say. And every time I think about all that you all are doing down there in Louisiana, in my home state, with black women mayors, I am just proud finally to be from Louisiana. You've got 20 black women mayors down there now. And I think we have on November 6th maybe an opportunity to elect even more. So we want to talk with you a little bit, Kimberly. We have an author here in the studio with us, and you may just refer to him as Sir Charles. His last name is Carey, but he's got some books too. We were talking about his book, and he's going to be staying with us as we talk about yours, and then we'll be coming back to some of his. But tell us a little bit about what you've written and what's it all about, how you would classify your writing.
The book that I've written is titled Win from the Beginning. Conquer obstacles, past, present, and future. And my vision, Dr. Faye, is for women who aspire to be entrepreneurs or who are already entrepreneurs and that come from various rural backgrounds, such as single parents or separated parents or even reared by their grandparents, and to let those women know and men alike that in spite of all that you have been through, you can still be a successful entrepreneur. So, although the book targets women primarily, it's actually for everyone, even children, even adults, even men, because as an inspiration and encouragement to each of those individuals, it's much needed in today's society. And so I wanted to allow these women to share their stories and explain to everyone the transparent life occurrences and obstacles that we as women have to face, even in a male-dominated society, and how there are still inequalities with women, and just to encourage those women to go forward with what is done.
And sometimes when we hear each other's stories, we find that our lives are not so bad after all.
That's right.
We have a tendency sometimes to, say poor me and feel sorry for ourselves. And then when we hear the stories of others, we can sort of get away from our own challenges and maybe be able to offer them some help. And in turn, we are helped by helping others. Don't you think so?
Absolutely, absolutely. I get that all the time. That, Kimberly, you have encouraged me, or you have inspired me, because as a mother and a wife and an entrepreneur running a business and a volunteer at the church, I understand about this. I really just don't have time, you know, for business with all that I have going on. And so this is just to enlighten them and show them several different perspectives of how we do it and give them tips on how they can do it as well.
Whenever someone says that to me, I don't have time, I said, oh Lord, I wish you could see what I do in the course of a day and night. I may be staying up until 12, 1, 2 o'clock to get it done. But we do what we have to do. We do what we want to do.
That's right.
So I would encourage anybody to stop saying, I don't have time, you know, to do various things. And then you have to sort out what's important to you, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And what happened to me, Dr. Eve, was in June of 2017, I resigned from corporate America after I'd been there 19.6 years. And since that time, my life and I have done some amazing things with my business, made it naturally. I taught a self-making class for kids at a university, and I have written this book from the beginning. So you can do it. It's about yourself writing it down and not allowing those notes to just lay dormant on the page, but actually implementing.
Well, we have here in the studio with us Sir Charles Carey, and he has written some books too. We've only had a chance to start talking about one of them, but I want the two of you to meet each other. And of course, if you have any comments on what Kimberly's talking about, Sir Charles, I'd like for you to comment on the importance of writing.
I think that writing is, as she is mentioning what she's done, writing is very therapeutic. And, you know, for those that are going through whatever you may be going through, let's face the truth. You may not have the answer to all things. You may need help. You may need this. You may want that. Try journaling. If you don't want to write a book, I get it. But try journaling. It is so therapeutic. You can see your thoughts. You may even come up with solutions. So I commend Kimberly on her book. I don't know if it's your first one, but I commend you on your book. And I would definitely say for those that are listening, consider writing. And if you are, keep writing, because it will do wonders for your soul. Literally. I know it sounds cliche. Try it and you will like it.
What I do, Kimberly, is write every day, even if I can't write a whole book, although I do try sometimes. But I write articles every week that go to all of the black papers in the country. And I hear from and meet some of the most wonderful people as a result of putting my thoughts out there. We can't be afraid of putting our thoughts out there. Some people may agree with them, some may disagree with them,
right.
But at least it gets them thinking about an issue. So what I do is I have a box next to my desk, and even if I can only think of a few lines to write, I scribble it, and I throw it in that box. And one of these days, Sir Charles, I'm going to get somebody to go through that box and put all of that together. But in terms of what I'm writing, I'm very pleased with it because I do get a lot of comments.
You know, I tell you, I've been writing, and sometimes in the middle of a project, I already have an idea for another project. So, like you, Dr. Ife Williams, I'll write down the outline and just put it to the side so I don't get distracted. That's really smart.
Now, Kimberly, how do you think your book will inspire other women?
Well, as I've already received testimonials from, we launched on last Saturday, and on Monday, one of my coworkers advised that she has a story talking about how she took the notary exam, and that exam was very difficult, and she believed that she was going to pass that test. And so there was a lady that was reading the book, and she was about to take the exam, and it encouraged her. So even right there was an immediate testimonial of how it's inspiring and encouraging other women. And so as it's in the hands of others, people who've actually read these stories, then it resonates with all of us to say, yes, you can be a mother and a wife and a spouse, and you can take the children to practice, and you can still have business that's successful and thriving. And I feel that in this day and time, we need something that's encouraging and
yes.
because we have so many things that are going on. And Dr. Ife, I'm sure you see that Shreveport has become a crime infested city where you're seeing it on a daily basis. And so there needs to be an alternative to say that, yes, in spite of everything that's going on around you, that the Lord is still with us and taking care of us, and we are still winners.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned a notary in Louisiana. I had to write. I am a notary here in Washington, D.C., where it's very easy to be a notary here, and you don't get much money for doing it. It's a public service, actually. But in Louisiana, the laws are different, and it's a little more challenging to do a notary there. But I've been through that experience, so I know what you're talking about. Now, does the book encourage aspiring entrepreneurs to become entrepreneurs, something we really truly need in the community?
Absolutely. And the way it does that is because with me, I have a skincare called Mended Naturally, www.mendednaturally.com. And Mended Naturally was created as a result of my niece having eczema when she was 6 months old. And it has use for not only eczema, but scars, surgical scars, burns, etc.
Mm.
So if I can do it, you have various women doing various things. There's a lobbyist, Dr. Marquis here is a lobbyist. You have a person that's doing so you have all of these various facets of entrepreneurs so that if it's something that you want to go in, there's an example there for you. There's tips and examples and life lessons that you can really read and see and relate to. And as I say, in this day and time, women have so much to do and they feel so bogged down. And again, we just want to make sure that they are encouraged to know that as we are able to do it, they are able to do it. And the only person that can hinder them from doing that is themselves.
Wow. I'm going to say, Dr. Faye, I also wanted to share add on to what she's saying. I think you're so spot on, and I tell people all the time, don't do it if you don't love it. So try as best as possible to make your first decision on what you want to do the one that's the most meaningful. And I usually ask a question of my audiences, which puts them in the right direction. In my mind, I ask them, what is the thing that you talk about more than anything else? And when you talk about it, an actual smile comes to your face. Whatever that answer is, I would say 9 times out of 10, that's the direction you're supposed to go in. Versus, chasing technology, chasing this network marketing, or make a first decision a lasting decision.
Absolutely. I've studied a lot of different things and could possibly do a lot of things in life. And some days I do. I feel like I'm just crisscrossing and going, all around and doing things. But I know that I can make a lot more money doing something else. But money is not the most important thing.
Oh, my goodness.
If you're doing something that you love and you feel you're making some kind of progress, that means a lot more than the dollars you can make.
Yes.
Yeah. Because
it satisfies the spirit.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think writing is so important, and I'm so glad I've got 3 authors here.
Yeah,
I'm
yourself.
an author too, right? Absolutely. If you don't put it in writing, it's as though it didn't happen, because 20 years from today, nobody knows what you did unless they can go to a book and find they can't use your inspiration that you may have talked about today,
right,
but you didn't put it in writing.
That's right.
So I would encourage all of our listeners, no matter how bad your grammar is, it doesn't matter. Put it in writing. Get a friend to help you correct the grammar, whatever. Put it in a language, as Mr. Gregory would say, so your grandma can understand it. Sometimes you got to use all these big words and everything.
Dr. Ife, I tell people all the time. I do a workshop in January. It's called "Tell Your Story, Live Your Story, Be Your Story," and it teaches them how to communicate, some of the basics, and it also teaches them what you need to write your story. And the premise, one of the most important premises of the book, is the fact that there's always someone waiting to hear your story the way you tell it. Now, I can tell your story, but would it be received as the person who lived it? I don't think so. It may even sound eloquent, but someone needs to hear your cadence. They need to hear your draw, your angle, your mindset, and that comes from your voice. Just like your editor of your book, they need to understand your voice as they edit, and then you have a winner.
And then what you write can be so educational.
Yes.
You may not think very much of what you said, but it may be just the thing that somebody needs to inspire them.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what Kimberly talks about, is something that's inspirational to to others in her writing. So I'm very pleased with that. in the National Congress of Black Women, of which I'm the national president, we always have our theme begin with our stories. This year it's called Our Stories, Powerful Stories. And so we honor people who have a story to tell, and they come and they get a chance to, meet a new group of people. Our members meet a new group of people, and we always learn something from what they have done. And so, many times you'll hear someone say, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know you had done that. But our theme is always our stories, and whatever. It could be our stories, inclusion, our stories, teaching, our stories, whatever. And we do that for every year when we have the CDC weekend, National Congress of Black Women's Luncheon. And by the way, it is coming up on September 16th. So I hope a lot of our listeners will come and meet some of the wonderful people we are honoring this year at the Marriott Woodland Park Hotel. And I always like to give out our website, as I'm going to ask you to give your website, because there are many things that people can learn from our website and learn about what we are doing and the services we perform in the community. So I want you to do the same thing, but the website of which I speak, because I can't go into details, it's just nationalcongressbw.org, nationalcongressbw.org, and there you can find out all about the services my organization performs, the National Congress of Black Women.
Right.
Now, Kimberly, would you tell us just a little bit about what you're doing in terms of directing and producing? I believe you have some skills, and so does Sir Charles. So I'll go to him next. But Kimberly, let's talk about that. There's a little bug that's bothering me here by my microphone. If you heard that clap just now. Okay, it's not just my home state now. There's one in the studio. All right. Okay, then. If those of you are just joining us, you're listening to Wake Up and Stay Woke. I'm Faye Williams, your host, and we're going to a little break, but when we come back, we're going to continue with Sir Charles Carey and Kimberly Green, who are both authors, and you have the freedom to call in and join the conversation when we come back from break. 202-588-0893. That's 202-588-0893. Wake Up and Stay Woke, and we'll be right back.
That was good, bouncing off of one. Good chemistry.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to talk some more about your books.
Sure.
This is if you wanted to go to the restroom or anything.
No, I'm okay.
little bug just kept flying.
I heard your clap. I was like, where did it come from? Wow. Hey, folks, thanks for, if you can hear, thanks for chiming in. I'm in the studio with Dr. Faye Williams. And this is a great experience also listening and speaking with the other author on the line. We're down at WPFW just, trying to do our work, do our service, basically. Sharing the gifts that God has given us. And if you're in there, stay online and we'll bring more. We're going to share more information with you soon. Try not to get into the engineer's way.
All right, nobody has to ask who that is. That's our sister, Aretha Franklin, Queen of Soul. Yeah, you never have to say, when somebody says Aretha, you don't have to say, Aretha who?
Exactly.
There is the one and only. If you say Queen of Soul, no question.
Exactly.
Everybody knows who you're talking about. She's made some of the most joyful songs.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I just love her voice. I mean, it's a thing of beauty and a joy forever, right?
Absolutely.
So for years to come, I know we're going to be hearing that voice. Okay, well, for those of you who just joined us after the break, we were talking before we went to break with Kimberly Green, an author in Louisiana, and she talked about her book. And we are all going to be wanting to get that book, I'm sure. So, Kimberly, if you'll just tell us the name of that book again. All right, we're going to talk in a few minutes about how we get the book. And Sir Charles, you talked about one of your books. Tell us the name of it again.
Well, the most popular is Radiate the Brain and Change the Game, but I've got a new one coming out called After the Diagnosis. From Crack to Cancer to Cure. That's the brand new book that will be debuted at my conference this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Okay, well, I've got a few books myself, but I'm trying to get another one written here, so I understand you may be going to help me find just the right person to go through all that stuff I have in these boxes. My two books that are out there now are The Peace Terrorist, which is from a trip that I took in wartime, the first Gulf War. That's got to be an interesting story. Yes, it's a 40-day trip with 200 women from around the world. And we were treated like terrorists, although we were on a peace mission. That's where the name comes from. And then my more recent one, I started when Barack Obama became president, writing for Tri-Edney Wire Service. That one is called The Truth Shall Set You Free. Wow. I'm still writing on that. I've got some other parts to it, but let me talk about your books today a little more. Mine, of course, can be found on our website. But where can we find your books, Sir Charles? Okay, all of my books are on Amazon, but honestly, if you really want to get them quick, I'll sign them and get them out to you. You'll find them on my website, sircharlescareyinc.com, and they are Courage, Facing Mortality, Cancer Wasn't My Only Obstacle. They are Radiate the Brain and Change the Game, Finding the Cure for Cancer in Your Business and Existence, and they are Aligned by Design, Linked into Your Legacy. And the brand new one, as I said before, is Radiate the Brain and Change the Game, After the Diagnosis. And we're going to hear a little bit more about each of those in a few minutes, but let's go back to Kimberly. In terms of Kimberly, how can we get your books? Your book. Okay, and spell that win because, it sounds very much like another word. So spell the words when you give out your the way that we can get the book. Absolutely. It's Okay, all right then. Now, let's go to one of Sir Charles' books because he has several here.
tell us about one of your other books that you have there.
Well, starting out, Courage Facing Mortality, cancer wasn't my only obstacle. I'm grateful that it did become an Amazon bestseller, and this is one that Dr. Willie Jolly did the forward for, and Anthony Browder did the afterward. Melanie Bonita was so gracious in sharing with me how to get the message out, and because of her, it became an Amazon bestseller. Radiate the Brain and Change the Game. And in fact, I mean to say this about Courage Facing Mortality, it's raw. You know, it talks about all the lessons I learned in hindsight as a substance abuser, all the lessons I learned as a 2-time cancer survivor, the mistakes I made growing up as a child, the mistakes in marriage, all those things are in that book. Radiate the Brain and Change the Game. That book, actually, Delatoro McNeil, I was on the reality show, The Keynote, and he said, if you want to be on the show, you got to write a book. So I wrote that book, and honestly, people love Radiate the Brain and Change the Game. This book is a how-to book, 21 chapters, 15 chapters of exercises, insights, hints, and tips. And again, people love it because it makes them see themselves for who they are. And that was followed up with Aligned by Design, Linked into Your Legacy, which speaks about the importance of understanding personality and the importance of understanding critical, in-depth analysis. And it's not a deep, sophisticated book, but it's a basic book written in layman's terms, which again, it's a how-to book. There are assignments in the book. You can write in the book, and it makes you see yourself for who you are, how you are, and where you are. And finally, that same gentleman, Delatoro McNeil, he challenged me to write a book for the cancer community, and that's where after the diagnosis came from. So as part of that Radiate the Brain and Change the Game series, after the diagnosis speaks to the cancer survivor, telling them how they can think, the mindset to adopt so they can get through this diagnosis of cancer. And it also speaks to their supporters. How do you support someone with a fatal illness? You know, how do you encourage them? How are you there for them? Keeping them from that pity mindset. And in the back of the book, there are tons of resources, cancer communities, advocacy groups that they can call and get help from, or call to find out more about the disease. And I'm really excited about this. And that book was also forwarded by Dr. Willie Jolly. Cheryl Wood did the endorsement. My good friend Sean DeRose did an endorsement, and so did Simon T. Bailey. And those are high-level presenters in their own right.
Okay, for those of you who are just joining us, you are certainly welcome to join in the conversation by calling us at 202-588-0893. That's 202-588-0893. I guess we must be sounding so good that nobody wants to interrupt us, right?
Please call us. We want some questions. Give us some questions to throw us off. Make us think.
Tell us some things.
Yeah.
We don't know everything. All right. Well, Kimberly, I want to go back to you now. I understand you've done some directing and producing. Let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, well, thank you, Kimberly. And we do have a couple of callers on the line. Hello, let's take the first one, Michael. Hello, caller. Who we got? Good morning. I know this voice. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
That's my wonderful sister. I just want you to know.
Really?
Yes, Sister Nia 2X, who is in my organization and helps out quite a bit with a lot of things that we do.
Hey, Sister 2X, thanks for the question. I'd like to definitely tackle it by saying it's dual fold, it's compounded. From the individual side, a lot of us are doing harm to ourselves. I'm talking about the smoking, I'm talking about sometimes excessive drinking and things of that nature. That will definitely not allow the body to perform at its ultimate peak level. And it will do things to you, especially if you're not hydrated well, it will do things to you that may be irreversible. The other side of the coin, and you can do a lot of research and a lot of it's readily available, it's our food supply. And I hate to say it, but it's true. The way our crops are treated, the way our animals are treated, with all the chemicals and steroids and things of that nature, it makes the body fail. Bottom line, it makes the body fail. I have not eaten meat in almost a year and a half because I have to look out for my own best interest because, unfortunately, the entities that are in place to do so are not doing their job.
And for the rest of the story, they need to read your book, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, we have another caller on the line. Let's go to the next caller. Hello? Yes? Hey, Bridget! Wow! Just speak up just a little bit. Okay, how are you? Oh, great, Kate. Well, I hope you heard Sir Charles talk about his book.
Oh, thank you. I'll sign it. That's right. That's right.
Right, state of mind. She's sounding like Dick Gregory himself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
That's
Claim
a big
it.
part of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. What area are you in? Okay.
In Atlanta.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Oh, I am so glad to hear from you. Yeah. Okay. And Kimberly, the National Congress of Black Women got a book club. So they do books by and about women. So I hope you'll be in touch with the organization to see how you can get involved. Sorry, Sir Charles, but this is about women. Books by book. Now, if you want to write a book about a woman, you can also come on this book club.
This is for the women.
Oh, you got one.
After the diagnosis.
Okay. All right then. Okay then. Well, Kimberly, where exactly are you in Louisiana?
I'm actually in Freeport, and as I shared with Dr. Faye, I recall years ago, back in 1988, Gregory did stay in a farm and fasting because racism in Texas was so great, and we had riots in Cedar Grove, and he came as a result of that, and I think you were with me.
I was, yeah. I was involved in many of his protests and resistance movements and what have you. And I was proud to call him my friend. And he did come to our state. He actually took us in front of a drug dealer's house and made us stand there late at night. And we were scared, but we did it anyway because he said, come on, let's march. Let's just go there and confront them. And that's the way he was.
Wow.
So, Bridget, I look forward to seeing you soon. This week I'm going to be down in Mississippi, I believe it is, but hopefully I'll get to Georgia before long, and also that you'll be able to come up here and be with us in Washington, D.C. I think she's gone already, but she's a wonderful friend. We encourage each other all the time.
That's great.
Back and forth all hours.
That's what it's all about.
Okay. And Michael, do we have another call on the line? Oh, okay. Well, let's go to the big question here. One is, Kimberly, do you have a Dick Gregory story? You just told yours, right? Okay. Sir Charles, did you know Dick Gregory?
Well, once I did go to Howard to help direct the choir with you. This is several years ago. I don't remember. How long ago it was, but I remember him before he was the activist that many of us came to know because of his comedic skills, especially in some of the smoky-filled clubs in New York City way back in the day when people like Bill Cosby was on I Spy, and some of our leaders or our known notaries were really just breaking ground, but not a personal one beyond that. I do have a picture with him, but nothing beyond that.
Yeah, he was always happy to take pictures with anyone, but you had to have your camera ready now.
Yeah, exactly. You sure enough got that right.
Absolutely. I know him well. There's so much today that we just want to make a mention of. We didn't get a chance to talk. We've mentioned Aretha, of course.
Yes.
Her viewing is going on in Detroit, so send up a prayer for her family. But yesterday was a day that we should remember also regarding the civil rights movement and the March on Washington.
55 years.
55 years.
Yeah.
But there was something else that happened on that day. It was the Emmett Till, maybe 60 some years before that, when he was killed in Mississippi. So let us remember all these things and how they impact us. Now it's just about time for us to say goodbye until next week, but don't forget to read about or honor somebody who did something to perfect our union. And we need to tell our stories. So many of them are powerful stories. Unless we tell our stories, they never get told. Somebody else tells them, and most of the time they get distorted. They're not the real story. We can tell it. No one can tell our story better than we can. Here at WPFW, we're streaming at WPFW.org. Please invite your friends to tune in, not just to wake up and stay woke, but listen at different times and days to some of my colleagues. There's always something special going on at WPFW 89.3. And let's work together and be involved in making a difference in our community. Let's work together and resist all efforts to take us back to some of the worst of the days in our nation. And if you have questions or comments, call any of our programmers at 202-588-0893. I'm Faye Williams, your host at WPFW. Please wake up and stay woke. And don't forget, November 6th is coming up, and it's your vote that can make a difference. It can bring about the change that you want to see. And it doesn't matter if you're in another state. You can call your congressional representative on 202-225-3121, 202-225-2131 here in Washington, D.C., and urge them to vote for statehood for the District of Columbia and the Equal Rights Amendment. That will make a positive difference to those of us who live in Washington, D.C., and for all women and girls. And try to do something to make a difference every day. All of us deserve better than the chaotic government we're now experiencing. Never forget that your vote can bring that change about that we need, but we have to resist and we have to persist in doing so. Let's remember some of those who came before us, like Dick Gregory, and did great things to perfect our union. I want to thank our special guests today, Kimberly Green and Sir Charles Carey. And I want to thank our listeners for listening, and those of you who called in. Please feel free to call in anytime. Remember also, as we talked about earlier, that please and thank you are always in order. So thank you to Michael Nasella, our engineer, and Mecca Hussamadeen, our producer, who is a student at Howard University. The organization for which I serve as national president is the National Congress of Black Women. And I want you to have a great Labor Day weekend. Remember all of those who work hard to make our lives better every day. And I invite all of you to join the National Congress of Black Women for our annual CBC weekend. It's a fabulous brunch where you can meet Ron Simons, who is a producer of the Dick Gregory play that's opening at Arena Stage in Washington, D.C. on Thursday, September 6th. I have a lot of friends who are going along with me to that. And of course, if you have questions after we have left the station, always feel free to call me on 202-678-6788. That's 202-678-6788. We answer every call that comes to us from any and every place. And I'll be happy to tell you more about the play if you want to call. But it's a play that's called Turn Me Loose. And the play gets its name from some of Mr. Gregory's work with Medgar Evers. In fact, those were the last words of Medgar Evers before he left us before he transitioned, when he said, "Turn me loose," because as you know, when he was shot, he didn't die immediately, but died in the hospital, and those were his eternal words. Now, I want you to remember that there are many others who do wonderful things on this station. So tune into some of them. You know, put the station 89.3 on your car if you're driving along, because there's always great information here at WPFW FM. Always we have jazz and justice, and we know that you'll enjoy it. So encourage your friends to listen in too. And I want to thank Sir Charles for being on the program and staying the entire hour with us today. I want you also to stay tuned to my good friend David Whetstone and Community Watch and Comment. You know I love you, and I'll be back with you next week. But happy Labor Day.
Hey guys, don't forget the conference this weekend, cmpotevents.com. Register and get a free copy of the new book, After the Diagnosis, this Saturday and Sunday. Y'all take care. Radiate the brain. Change the game. Thanks for the support, everyone.